Okie doke, I think I've gotten to a point where I can comfortably record this video. Smart man would have double checked his audio sources before hitting the record button, but not here, not on this channel. That's not how I do it. It's entirely by the seat of my pants all the time, every time. So today we have a very special sort of episode. So on one hand, this episode is going to be an Idearena episode, but this is also simultaneously going to be an episode of fine-tuning because of the nature of it, so let me get into that. As you can see by the video that is playing while I am recording, I want to talk about monster intros today. I do not exactly know how I should explain this. Well, let me put it like this. Every single Godzilla fan that grew up playing the Golden Trilogy, also known as the Atari Pipeworks trilogy of three-dimensional Godzilla fighting games, knows that not every single monster that Godzilla has ever fought got into those games, and it is very likely as children, each and every single one of us who were Godzilla fans when they played that game tried to imitate the announcer for the intro of a fight, but did the name of the monster in question that we really wanted in the game. So to speak, we would say Monster X versus King Kong, or something to that effect. So that is what this video is going to principally be about, because I just spent the last couple days effectively doing that, but not really. Obviously, I'm not working on a Godzilla game, so I can't exactly literally code / program and animate and sound design these intro animations, but found a way to finagle my way into imitating the announcer for Godzilla Save the Earth in specific.
Godzilla 2000 versus King Hedorah.
In total truth, I do not really remember what the Destroy All Monsters Melee announcer sounds like, and considering I grew up playing Godzilla Save the Earth, and it was one of the first PlayStation 2 games that I owned, I'm not exactly surprised by that. All I know for a fact is that I didn't prefer it to Save the Earth's announcer when I did eventually go back and play it.
Godzilla 90 versus Godzilla 2000.
And it should go without saying that both the Nintendo Wii version and PlayStation 2 version of Godzilla Unleashed had a far inferior narrator, announcer, when compared to the predecessor game, Godzilla Save the Earth. So, I finally have reached a point where I wanted to see / I guess hear, more accurately, what many of the monsters that were not in Godzilla Save the Earth would sound like if they had intros in Godzilla Save the Earth. So I spent the last few days collecting movie clips and roar sound clips and music clips to bring such things into existence. Now, on the point of the music, anyone who grew up playing Godzilla Save the Earth and the rest of the games in the trilogy, the Golden Trilogy as I call it, knows that there was no unique music per intro. And as I have done in previous episodes of the Idearena sub-series in the past, that was a thing that was added in the fan-made mod project for the PCSX2 emulator mod Godzilla Save the Earth Melee, which I have covered extensively on this channel in the past and will continue to cover until such time as it is sniped by Toho Company Limited's lawyers. Specifically in the video about the intros that I did, where I went over pretty much all of them, not all of them, but most of them. I lay this out in more detail there, but I kind of wanted to carry that sort of styling into how I created these intros, or I don't know, drafted up these rough drafts of these intros. And if you watched any of my Godzilla Save the Earth Melee video coverage, check the descriptions of those videos, because that mod had a popularity contest vote, so to speak, and I chose a lot of monsters from that list that I was able to easily conceive of musical tracks to pair with those monsters. So, though this is a thought / exercise detached from that specific fan project. I would not be in the least bit surprised if some of this stuff has already been kicked around in the minds of the Nasty Soft developers for that project. And to be completely frank, most of this is not particularly off of the beaten path. Like, a lot of this is pretty obvious if you know kind of how they approach the music and whatnot in the roars for that mod at the moment. Pretty much none of this is going to catch you off guard. Although, if it does, please let it be known in the comments, because in the off chance that a lot of people see this video, better suggestions being made known in the comment section would probably help a lot. Before we start, I have to say I have 6 monster pairings lined up for this video that I have already created intros for and used movie clips and roars to kind of draft up what they would look / sound like. Obviously, they're not animated, but... Oh, wait a minute. No, it's 7. I want to do 7 of these. Some of these are going to be for characters that I have previously covered in the Idearena series, so I'm just going to go through each of these pairings and I'm going to play them, and then I'm going to talk about them and the monsters that are involved with them. So please enjoy.
Mechagodzilla versus Minilla.
Okay, first up we have a bit of a funny one. I used a random pair generator to do this, and then I modified it from there because there are certain pairings of characters that I do want to go over. Showa Mechagodzilla / Mechagodzilla 1974 and Minilla / Minya. And hold on to that, I promise it becomes relevant in the remainder of the video. If you take a look at the chapters at the bottom of the video, you may know that already, because the odds are good that people are just going to skip over me entirely. And frankly, I don't exactly blame them, although I am a pretty nice guy, so... Anyway, Mechagodzilla 1974, I will not belabor the point on this one. I feel like this is a pretty obvious one, and unlike Minilla and many of the later monsters in this compilation of intros that I have created, I created the rough draft sketch for Showa Mechagodzilla's intro from the Godzilla for PlayStation 4, Godzilla for PS4, Godzilla vs. intro animation instead of the movie iteration of the exact same scene. And if you watched my Idearena episode about the Mechanical Titan of Terror, which covers Mechagodzilla 1974 in depth, you will know that Toho is extremely trigger happy when it comes to copyright strikes, so I can't use the actual movie clips. I won't even be surprised if in the process of editing this video I have a lot of trouble. If that happens, you're probably not going to see some of these pairings. I might talk about them, I don't know. I haven't gotten editing yet, obviously, so. But I think Mechagodzilla emerging from the haze of flames and, you know, spinning its hands and roaring, shrieking, whatever you want to call it, is kind of just mandatory. And I think Mechagodzilla appears by Masaru Sato, the composer for the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, released in 1974. There isn't really any other possible choice for a musical track, at least for the 1974 incarnation. I should note, it is quite possible that I could do more intros, but the problem is that I do not know exactly which musical choices would go with certain iterations of these kaiju. I don't know what you could do differently for Mechagodzilla 1975 / Mechagodzilla 2. In my moveset plan for Mechagodzilla 1975, I said that you could give that version of the character a separate rage move, so I highly recommend that you check out that video because I did put a lot of effort into it. I rewatched it the other day when I got home from work, and I genuinely do not know how I had the patience to record, talk about, and edit that video from front to back.
I'm losing my patience.
My internet bill just came. Got the email. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the video. Now, Minilla. I did mention how Minilla would be a crazy, fun kind of joke fighter in a Godzilla Save the Earth Melee related video that is also quite long. I have not done a dedicated Idearena episode for Minilla yet. Show up in the comments if you really want to see that. But I did go with the notion that Minilla is kind of a joke fighter. But the fact of the matter is, I did think of an intro animation / intro song for that character. To be completely clear with you guys, I have a Minya page in the document on my computer in Microsoft Word where I catalog all of these various character ideas for a hypothetical dream 3-dimensional Godzilla fighting game. Minya is like probably north of 75 to 80% done. Due to the gameplay gimmick that I kind of envisioned for him, which kind of hinges on the fact that he is a joke fighter, and the fact that I've kind of gotten bogged down with the heat in my office and the weather attendant to that, as well as with my job, my work. Which I did do a video on sometime in the past. I haven't finished the Minilla / Minya monster manual. But hey, you know, if people express interest in such a thing, maybe I will actually sit down and record an extensive, and believe me, it is extensive, monster manual on that character. Alright, on to the next one.
King Caesar versus Godzilla 2016.
King Caesar, 1974. Again, I talked about King Caesar in relation to a particular Godzilla mod project. It might be the same video in which I initially talked a lot about Minya and Minilla. So the video card at the top of the screen has already flashed by at this point in the video when I am saying this. So maybe check that out. King Caesar was in Godzilla Unleashed for the Wii. But as I said earlier in the video, the Godzilla Unleashed for Wii announcer for the various monsters was less than stellar. I don't exactly know how to describe it, but he was kind of unenergetic, like King Caesar.
King Caesar.
Like,
put some bass in your voice.
I don't know how to describe it, but anyone who knows.
That's whatever you were talking about for you.
I will say, in this intro animation that I just played for King Caesar, I went with the 1974 iteration of the character. Now, I have expressed personal preference for the Godzilla Final Wars iteration of King Caesar, but in that video that I have mentioned now twice, I also think I have said that I think the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee alternate costume methodology of approaching these different incarnations for these different characters is a good thing. So I kind of went with the Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 1974 movie as inspiration for how King Caesar could, and in my personal opinion should, show up prior to a match. Obviously King Caesar wasn't an official game, and I haven't really particularly thought about how I would personally change the moveset that he was given in that game. But the second character, Godzilla 2016, the Shin Godzilla incarnation of Godzilla, I did mention in the past I have a full-blown moveset plan made out for that iteration of the character. Another character on this list, which we are about to cover in a few minutes, seconds, I don't know, won out in the community tab poll that I had that featured Godzilla 2016. So much like I said in that old video, let me know in the comments if you actually want to see that. I don't really have a whole lot to say, I feel, about the Godzilla 2016 intro animation, other than when the fourth form kind of goes into that city environment, all I can think of is that the military bombards the ever-loving out of Godzilla, and I just remember hearing a lot of the Showa era explosion military bombardment sound effects, and unfortunately I must admit that my sound engineering prowess is rather limited. I am also using the program known as Shotcut to edit these videos, and I have been using it since I started making videos in March of 2024. My computer is also not much of a powerhouse, my laptop laptop, so I did not want to fight endlessly trying to get those explosion sound effects to layer into the intro animation spotlessly, but I feel like Godzilla 2016 emerging from a plume of black smoke caused by such a bombardment while roaring out one of the roars closely associated with Shin Godzilla would be the way to go. And for the record, I may or may not have directly tried to recreate the intros in my Idearena moveset document in these rough draft intro bits. So, okay, for this next one, I have a character that was not in that poll that I previously mentioned, and I also have King Kong, who I did an entire hour-plus long video covering a moveset plan for, so check that out. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Gorosaurus versus King Kong.
Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus is a monster that I have a full-blown Idearena moveset plan laid out for in the document on my computer that was not present in that poll that I have mentioned in the past. Not the past, the remainder of this video, parts for this. Again, that Godzilla Save the Earth Melee poll may have influenced my choices of monsters to cover. Not for any particular reason. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Gorosaurus is rather basic. Honestly, when I was kind of doing my research and coming up with a moveset plan for him, I obviously had to do research into where Gorosaurus actually shows up in order to craft an introductory animation for him, and I did not watch the entire movie, thank holy goodness. Well, yeah, if you didn't know, Gorosaurus first appeared in King Kong Escapes from 1967, the same year that we got the ugliest, or one of the ugliest, Godzilla suits ever put to film from Son of Godzilla. And Gorosaurus, I think, later showed up in Destroy All Monsters, which everybody knows about. And then I believe he reappeared in either Zone Fighter, Go Green Man, or Go God Man. Not necessarily in that order, but those were some of the various Toho Company Limited Tokusatsu Ultraman ripoff television shows that Toho tried to do in the 1970s. Well, a little update there. I actually was able to download all of the episodes of the Zone Fighter show with English subtitles from an archival website on the internet, so whoever did that, you're never gonna see this video probably, but thank you for that, because Toho, I think, kind of wants to bury the Zone Fighter sub-IP. All I know is that I found all of those things online, and then I watched Cole McCormick from Firewood Media's video covering Zone Fighter to kind of get a preview, because thankfully he doesn't spoil anything usually, and you know, he gives spoiler warnings if necessary. But I do have that show now, but I think Gorosaurus, he can be pretty easily summarized. In the words of the illustrious Brofessor from Bro Science Life, Don Massetti, it could be said that Gorosaurus and King Kong are
at your most pure, also known as basic.
It's kind of funny, Gorosaurus, the music that accompanies the initial fight scene between King Kong and Gorosaurus in King Kong Escapes, I believe, later became a song associated with King Hedorah. I was born in 1997, and the Heisei King Hedorah was my first King Hedorah, so it might just be that that kind of musical leitmotif was reused in Godzilla vs. King Hedorah in 1991, but I was shocked. I was like, this song I would not typically associate with Gorosaurus. King Kong is, by contrast, even more obvious, which is kind of hard to do. Gorosaurus is one of the most basic monsters you can possibly think of. Just giant dinosaur. King Kong's intro just kind of plucked a portion of the main title theme for King Kong vs. Godzilla 1962. If you watched that previous Idearena episode wherein I covered King Kong super extensively, there are two things that I should note. First off, my plan for King Kong, as outlined in that video, still stands, but obviously I could not really think of a way to splice in clips of King Kong landing on the ground with the yellow balloons from King Kong vs. Godzilla that airlifted him, detaching from him. So if you prefer the simplicity of this intro, maybe just go with that. I personally think that the balloons detaching as this intro plays would be ideal, but as I said in that video, that would only be possible, I feel, if you were including the 1962 King Kong in a totally original new Godzilla game, and personally feel, point number two, that the MonsterVerse legendary Kong, not King Kong, just Kong, should have his own intro inspired by one of the moments where he is first introduced in Kong Skull Island 2017. And I would also include a musical track / musical leitmotif in such an intro. But frankly, I don't remember a lot of the soundtrack for Kong Skull Island, and I am not much of a King Kong / Kong diehard, so feel like there's probably someone in the comments who could come up with a better musical track choice than me for that, but you didn't even include an intro for that version of the character. Yeah, so by default, my comment section would be able to come up with a better intro than me. If this video succeeds, oh, that's funny, oh, that's good, I can consider editing together such an intro. Okay, now for a non-Godzilla sort of intro, but it is related to an Idearena episode, related to a hypothetical 3D Godzilla fighting game. In fact, it was the first original moveset that I recorded, but I also included a character that I have included in my document that I have not devised any sort of move plan for. Roll film.
Giga Bowser versus Metal Overlord.
So yeah, Giga Bowser versus Metal Overlord. I did an entire video on Giga Bowser, and the entire video was a kind of thought experiment on the very idea that Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee could have gotten a guest character added to its roster. If you go back and watch that video though, there is no intro listed in the document in that video, and in total truth, I made this intro entirely in the confines of the shortcut editing environment. I did not write any of it down, but you know, I might go back later and reinsert that or a description of that into that document. I'm not going to do a full-blown writing revisited episode on Giga Bowser. It's pretty straightforward, right? That's why I included the Bowser theme from Super Mario 64 in that intro animation. I know that song does not have any association with the Giga Bowser character, but if you're gonna include such a guest character, I feel like that snippet of audio from the Super Mario 64 Bowser theme is really the only way you can go. And I kind of tied myself to some of the restrictions of that original Giga Bowser moveset plan video. I tried to pick a song that was from prior to the release of Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. I did kick around the idea of using Super Mario Galaxy and one of its many themes for Bowser boss fights for the intro, but I tried to keep myself chronologically consistent. So, in comparison, I did not think of making a moveset plan for Metal Overlord, the transformation of Metal Sonic / Neo Metal Sonic from the Sonic Heroes game, until around the time Sonic X Shadow Generations came out, because I was frankly very surprised that Sega even deigned to include the Metal Overlord as a boss fight in that game. And the intro animation for Metal Overlord in Shadow's boss fight with the Metal Overlord is kind of really cool. I wanted to include it in this intro animation, but I just couldn't think of a way to do it because I believe all the clips on YouTube of Metal Overlord being introduced in that boss fight include spoken dialogue between the Metal Overlord, Metal Sonic, and Shadow. So I went with what was a pretty simple solution, which is when Neo Metal Sonic shows up and turns into Metal Madness, I think, the transformation that comes before Metal Overlord in Sonic Heroes. As I have said at least once or twice, I have not actually filled out a moveset plan for the Metal Overlord yet, but I rewatched my Giga Bowser Idearena episode one day, and I was like, I wonder what other video game characters could kind of fit into this spigot engine, destroy all monsters melee, save the earth, unleashed sort of fighting system. And that was kind of the impetus for that. So let me know in the comment section, Godzilla fans, Sonic fans, anybody fans, if you want to see me cover the Metal Overlord moveset plan in a future video, / fill it out finally and actually complete it. Anyway, let me get back to the actual Godzilla monsters.
Gabara versus Minya.
Yeah, so this one has a duplicate. Earlier in the video, I showed you Mechagodzilla versus Minilla. I don't know what would be the name to go with for the Minya Minilla character.
I don't know, but I've been told. I don't know, but I've been told.
So I did 2 drafts of that intro. The only difference, literally, is the fact that I said Minya versus Minilla. I will link in the description below the
Voice changer.
Voice modifier
website that I used to create all of these different announcer calls of the various monsters. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I'm not going to look it up in the middle of recording this. I'm sorry. But huge shout outs to whoever it was that devised that website / tool. All of the monster names that are called out in the intro animations in this video, as well as the verses that I say for all of the animations, was created using my microphone and that website because it allows you to record from your mic and change the sound of that clip on the fly. So huge shout outs. Not much more to say than that. The only thing I can think of other than that to say is maybe you could have different alternate skins of the Minilla Minya character have different names get shouted out. I have said before I would do the Showa Minilla and the Final Wars Minilla at the very least. But like I said, I have an extensive moveset plan most of the way lined out for him, and that includes a roster of skins for that character. So, you know, just keep that in mind, right? You might want to see that video. There's some doozies in there. Anyway, paired up with him is, of course, Gabara, who performed the most pathetically out of all of the monsters in the community tab poll that I ran that led to the creation of the King Kong Idearena video, the supercharged 8th wonder of the world. Gabara has had a full moveset plan lined out for him in my document for a while now. As I said in that King Kong video, I actually think I did a pretty good job with coming up with a way to make him playable in a 3-dimensional Godzilla fighting game. The intro has been planned for a while. I basically just like the idea that Gabara is a bully, right? I mean, Gabara, the human character, was literally a bully. So Gabara kind of, you know, says, bring it on, come on, to whoever the opponent is in the intro animation. The only thing that's in my document that isn't in the clip is the fact that I think that when he kind of touches his pectoral muscles,
Check out my pecs, little man.
it should kind of cause a small electrical particle effect flourish on his chest, just to, you know, indicate that Gabara has electrical powers. But the only reason that's not there is because I used the clip from the actual Godzilla's Revenge / All Monsters Attack to make that intro rough draft, and obviously I can't edit to nearly that level of complexity, so just imagine that in your head if you go back and rewatch that rough draft animation placeholder kind of thing. Next up, we have a monster that has already been in this video and one that was in that poll that I mentioned earlier. Actually, no. Both of these monsters have been on that community tab poll, but they ultimately lost to King Kong. But I don't remember them ever cracking 10% of the vote anyway, so...
Hedorah versus Shin Godzilla.
Hedorah was a bit of an ordeal. Hedorah has been completely outlined in my document for a while. The intro animation that I just played does not match it one-to-one, but that's only because, in my mind, in the latter portion of the Hedorah animation, his eyes should kind of flash red or glow red, or his head should glow red, and I don't think they do in that clip specifically that I used in that animation. But the first part of that Hedorah animation intro rough draft is the reverse, actually, of a moment where Hedorah in its final form turns into the flying form and kind of flies over to attack Godzilla on Mount Fuji in the third act. I had to reverse it through editing to kind of make it work, but I think I did a pretty good job. Like I said, the only thing is that I think Hedorah's eyes should ignite red, you know? Hedorah has a full moveset plan. I have not done an episode on Hedorah. If you are at all interested in seeing that, I would highly recommend that you show up in the comments and in, you know, the like count, or hell, even the subscription tally. I would really appreciate that too. The other monster is Godzilla 2016, except in this one, the animation's the complete same. A lot of what I said earlier can be just copy-pasted here, but I personally, and I have seen many people online, usually refer to this incarnation of Godzilla as Shin Godzilla. So I did both just to kind of see what I could do. Tell me in the comments which one you like more. I feel like for consistency with the game being the original Godzilla Save the Earth, I think Godzilla 2016 is more on brand for kind of the style that I was going for, but Shin Godzilla also works. I also don't know if you were going to do an actual Godzilla fighting game, as Toho apparently plans to do in the future, question mark, maybe, perhaps. They even like referring to that incarnation as Shin Godzilla specifically. I don't know, so, you know, what can you do? And there's one more pairing that I wish to discuss. Two of the most powerful monsters in all of Godzilla. Extraordinarily destructive. And if you've looked at the chapters, you're probably already getting the joke that I am trying to go for here. But here we go.
Monster X versus Ebirah.
Monster X and Ebirah. Monster X was kicked around for Godzilla Unleashed, and Monster X ranked pretty highly in the popularity poll for the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee mod that I mentioned. I have a full-blown moveset outlined for Monster X in my document. I also have a full-blown recolor alternate skin lineup for the character. I wouldn't call Monster X as basic as Gorosaurus, but in kind of lining out a moveset for Monster X, I have to say it ended up being kind of basic, but also kind of inventive, but not in a way that is easily explainable, and frankly, I would rather leave you on a cliffhanger so that people decide that they want to hear about those sorts of things. I passed 2,500 subs, but most people don't care about the original Godzilla Brawler content, so I gotta do what I can to make people interested in coming back for Godzilla-related videos from yours truly. I could have probably also done an intro animation for Kaiser Ghidorah, because I'm sure the first thought that will come to most people's minds is, in a brand new Godzilla fighting game, it would be sick as hell to include Kaiser Ghidorah as a transformation for Monster X, kind of similar to how Mothra and Mothra Larva function in the base Godzilla Save the Earth, as well as Godzilla Unleashed. And I have good news. When I did my moveset plan for Monster X, I drafted up the Monster X moveset plan with a version that includes the transformation as a gimmick and a version that does not include the transformation as a gimmick. So the short version is I have a full outline of what I would do with Kaiser Ghidorah, moveset and alternate costumes, but I gotta leave you wanting more, right? So in addition to all of the other things that I have asked for comments on in the remainder of this video, you know, the parts in the rear view that you've probably already skipped over, let me know if you want to see that. Either Monster X by himself, Kaiser Ghidorah by himself, or the kind of combined Monster X and Kaiser Ghidorah movesets. Now, believe it or not, Monster X was not the super powerful, planet-destroying monster that I was referring to before I played the clip.
Well, it's been nice knowing you, Vegeta.
Oh, shut up!
I was actually talking about Ebirah, the maker of the Krabby Patties. Yeah, it's kind of a meme. I thought it was funny. I was amused by it. To be 100% honest, I'm just happy whenever I find a meme specifically related to the Godzilla franchise that does not make me absolutely cringe out of my seat. And trust me, I have posted many times, not actual posts, but comments on the Godzilla subreddit. And, yeah, you know, the Twitter, I cannot speak or I will be banned meme kind of applies here. Hedorah does not have a moveset plan in my moveset plan document at the present moment. It's pretty obvious that the Final Wars version of Ebirah could probably be on the alternate skin slate for Ebirah if/when I make such a plan. I have also said in the past that maybe the Showa iteration of the monster Ganymedes could work as a skin for the character/kaiju of Ebirah. I don't know. All I know is that this intro that I played obviously pays homage to one of the first times that Ebirah shows up in Ebirah Horror of the Deep / my preferred title, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, in 1966. And I knew before I even started editing it which song I wanted to include as the musical leitmotif / background music for the intro. If you have a better suggestion for the song, let me know. But to me, when I think of Ebirah, the song that I just played in the Ebirah intro that I devised is what I would go with for such a thing, yada yada yada. You know what I'm talking about. It was not a good idea to wear a black shirt, a t-shirt, believe it or not, in this home office of mine. I'm sweating under this thing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I do think the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee project introduced a very solid addition to the formula.
The secret formula will be mine soon enough.
For the monster intros. And I was so motivated by it that I went out of my way to find that
Voice-changing kind of
tool website so that I could even do this video in the first place. I will, before I go, and before I get rid of all the banners underneath me, I will say that in general, and this is kind of advice for if you want to make mock intros of your own sort, kind of like I did in this video, the monster intros in Godzilla Save the Earth, according to the videos that I have watched, i.e. the compilations of all of the intros that I have included up here in the video, all of the Godzilla Save the Earth intros for all of the monsters are approximately, although I'm sure there is some form of variation between them, 4 seconds long per. And from what I can understand, though I may be incorrect, the monster's name is said in like the first half of the intro, the first 2 seconds, such that the sound clip for versus can comfortably slot into the back half 2 seconds. That's not like a hard, fast rule. I don't know that for a scientific certainty. All I know is that the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee monster manuals as of June 7th, 2025 kind of have this inconsistency with the lengths of the various intro sound effects, musical choices, etc., which I have pointed out in the past. So when I was forming my own intro animation mock-ups, I went with 4 seconds. That was like the hard and fast rule that I went with. So, hope you guys enjoyed this rather this rather all over the board kind of video. I have already asked for likes, I have already asked comments, I have already, I think, asked for subscriptions if you enjoyed the content of this video. But the one thing I have not asked for is for you to check out Mount Merch, my merchandise store, which is definitely pinned in the description and probably will be included in the pinned comment for this video, although depending on how fast I get to the video after it comes out will determine whether or not it's there yet. Obviously in the future you don't have to even worry about that, but if for some reason you have notifications turned on, you're not going to see that. Either way, take it easy guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you on the flip side.
Remy versus Godzilla Brawler.